Hi, everybody. This is Pastor Susan. It's been quite a while since I've posted anything to my Dismantling the Patriarchy YouTube page, but this past Sunday's reading from the Old Testament really is a prime candidate for looking at how we can learn from our ancestors in confronting power and dismantling patriarchy. The story is about two women named Shiphrah and Puah. Not your very common names, but they were midwives. And they were part of a group of women who, within the Hebrew community, would tend to the women and teach them ways of taking care of their health, taking care of their children, all of the ways that they needed to care for the health of the women of their time. And so they had a problem. They had a big, big problem because the Hebrew people at that time were under slavery in Egypt, ruled by the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh had become quite concerned that the Hebrew people were growing too many. There were too many of them, and that they would just keep on growing and keep on becoming more powerful and eventually somehow take over or rebel against him. And so he felt that he needed to do something. Sounds a lot like things that go on today, right? We have to maintain the purity of our nation. We can't let those foreigners get too many or too influential. So Pharaoh had a plan. He decreed that the midwives, every time they attended the birth of a Hebrew woman, that if the infant was a boy, that they would kill that child. Girls could live, boys needed to die. Now you can imagine what that was like for these midwives. It was a terrible, terrible thing. People who were responsible for bringing about life and caring for life, all of a sudden are being required to bring death. Now they had a dilemma. What were they going to do? Well, they hatched a plan. They decided that they would not obey Pharaoh's decree and that they would come together and figure out ways that they could hide the babies or somehow disguise them or whatever they needed to do in order to keep them alive. They were taking a big risk by doing this. This could be death to them or anyone who would be seen in helping them in this way. So this is what they did. Now, Pharaoh, somebody happened to mention to him that the Hebrew people, they're still growing. They're still, the population is still growing. And so he calls Shiphrah Puah to come back in, another audience with the Pharaoh. Can imagine how they probably were going there with fear and trembling, because Pharaoh wanted to know, why are there so many babies being born to these people? And this is just beautiful, because what they did is they lied. They lied. They said, these Hebrew women, they are just so strong. They're really more like animals, that when they're ready to birth their babies, we can't get there fast enough. They just plop out. So they lied to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh was speechless. And I love that, because, right, when women start talking women talk, men tend to just go silent. Like, okay, I don't want to know any more about that. So he just accepted the lie. And so the story continues. And so then we find out that Moses' mom delivers a baby boy, who is not killed. But another group of women actually come together to make sure that Moses is safe. So his mother, first of all, when he's about 3 months old, she knows that she can't hide him forever. So she gets a basket and she coats it with some pitch or something to keep it watertight. And she puts the baby in the basket, and she puts the basket into the Nile, hoping that someone would find the baby and care for him. So she did that. Now, Moses' sister, Miriam, watches from the banks of the Nile to watch over her brother, just to see what happens. And what happens is that a daughter of the Pharaoh comes strolling by, and she spies this basket in the river, and she looks at it and she goes, this must be one of the Hebrew babies. And she gets her attendants to help her to pull the basket out, and she's got the baby and she wants to take the baby home with her. Miriam is there, and this is just so clever of her to do this, says to Pharaoh's daughter, hey, you're going to need somebody to nurse this baby. I know somebody back in the Hebrew camp who could do that for you. And Pharaoh's daughter said, oh, yes, do that, and I will pay her. So Miriam gets Moses' own mom to take him to nurse him and get paid in the process. So Miriam and Moses' mom and the midwives, even Pharaoh's daughter, really come together to make sure that Moses makes it, that he makes it, and he can go on to deliver the people. So it's wonderful to think about Moses and the big hero of our faith, right? But how wonderful it is it to look back at these women who defied power at great risk, really, to themselves, who spoke truth to power. And we can look back at them now as examples of how we stand up to those in power who want to determine how women live and act and bear children and care for our health and all of the things that women do, and how we can, even in our small ways, go up against that power and defy it. It's been happening forever and ever. Shiphrah Puah can tell us that it's been happening for a long, 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 long time. But there are things that we can do in order to keep on dismantling that old patriarchy. Amen. Bye for now.